Hello my creative friends, welcome to Rain Francis Art. My name is Rain. Today's real-time video tutorial is me drawing a scene from the movie A Christmas Carol. I've drawn this with ink pen and graphite pencils. It's a scene that I chose for my art date today, Thursday art date with Rain. The theme is Christmas Future. I chose this scene because it depicts a possible future for poor little Tiny Tim. It's a scene when the ghost of things yet to come brings Ebenezer Scrooge around to show him what the future might be like if he didn't stop being so stingy while paying his employee Bob Cratchit. It's kind of a sad little scene because it depicts Tiny Tim's scarf and hat and his cane just resting on a chair by the fire, almost forsaken in a way. But as we all know, that's not what happened because Scrooge changed his ways, so Tiny Tim is just fine. If you'd like to join along with this tutorial, I've left a link in the description below of a stencil that I created along with a list of the supplies that I've used. And if you'd like to join in on my weekly Thursday art date, please visit rainfrancisart.com for more details. So without further ado, here's the video. I hope that you enjoy it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I just wanted to show you my Santa socks. Are they cute? Let's have some fun drawing. Now the first thing I did off camera was that I created this stencil here. It's a fireplace with a chair, Tiny Tim's cane and his hat and his scarf, and a pile of logs here from, Christmas Carol. And what I'm going to do is, what I've recently discovered is that there exists this stuff, graphite paper, graphite transfer paper. This is white. I use this on my black paper now. And I also got some black. I don't know where the packaging is, but I think it's the same company here. I got them off Amazon. I'm not affiliated with that whatsoever, but it's a treat to use, that's for sure. So I've got a piece of the black graphite transfer paper, and I don't know if you can see this, but I wrote top here. Here's a little tip for you. Write what the top is, because I did a drawing the other day and I put the graphite paper down like this, and then I put my paper on top and I started transferring it, and when I took it up, the page was blank because I had put it on the wrong way, and it was an intricate drawing, and it really, I lost my motivation. I didn't even do it a second time. So if you can remember where the top is, that would serve you very well. So I'm just going to take a sharp pencil here, and I'm going to transfer my image onto my canvas. I hope my pencil's okay. There we go. Because I'm using graphite pencils and ink, and I'm going to be doing a lot of shading, I don't particularly care if my graphite stencil marks show. I'm not going to try to erase them because they're just, you're going to see it, they're just going to be part of the drawing and the shading. So I don't really care if they show. But if you're doing a drawing where you don't want the black graphite paper to, not paper, the black graphite transfer medium, I guess, to show, don't press too hard because it is very hard to erase. And you could ruin your paper erasing, especially with, depending on what kind of paper you use. I personally have a good quality paper here. I should have told you what supplies I'm using. This is a Strathmore Visual Journal Bristol-Smooth drawing pad. It's perfect for ink and graphite. I have a few sizes of these pads and they work really well, and they work well for colored pencil too when you're using a medium to blend. Anyway, I'm going off topic here. So I've got the supplies, is the pad of paper, the Bristol-Smooth. I've got some just regular Winsor Newton 0.8 size black ink pens. I've got some erasers here. And I've got my graphite pencils. I've got HB, 2B, 4B, and I've got this one, which is an extra black, which is probably the equivalent of a 6B. I was trying to find the 6B in bulk and I couldn't find it. So, and I've got a piece of wax paper here so that I can rest my hand on it. No smudges, and I've got a little dollar store paintbrush here to brush away the eraser marks, and some shading tools. Usually I just use this Sofft foam tip blender to shade, and once in a while I'll use the blending stumps, so I'll let you know as I go. Okay, that's over with. Let's get back to transferring here. I'm not too worried about straight lines. I know it's a chair and it should have straight lines, but you know, this is just a drawing. Today it's winter here where I live, and I'm just trying to see if I missed anything here. I've said this in other videos, but with my bright lights here, I can hardly see what's going on. I have to go back and take a look because otherwise I'm blind here with the light, but it makes it easier for you guys to see what I'm doing, so it's fine. I don't mind that at all. So what I was saying, I think, if I can remember, is it's winter here where I live, and oh, I have to do his cane. It's pretty cold out now. We're almost at the end of December, actually. But it's nice where I live. I used to live in Quebec, Canada, and I lived in the Laurentian mountain chain, and it was, oh my gosh, the snow I used to get there was, I almost felt like crying some days because it was so much work, and I didn't have a snowblower, so I had to do it all by hand with a shovel and one of those big snow pushers. But the problem was I was renting a cottage there, and I'm just going to move my paper over if it will cooperate. There we go. Yeah, I used to live in an area that I guess I was in a kind of a valley and a snow belt, and I was renting a cottage in a little mountain village, and whenever the village snow removal guy used to drive by, I lived at the bottom of a long hill. I would get all the snow from everybody else's, you know, driveway or the front of their house or whatever. And it was unbelievable how I got boxed in on my driveway. And that's why I told you I was in tears sometimes, because it was just like, one day I remember waking up and the snowbank in front of my driveway, and I'm not exaggerating whatsoever, it was 6 feet tall. And I just thought to myself, I can't do this. You know, I ended up doing it because you need to have access, you know, to your car when you live in a very rural area. I had no choice. I had to just buck up and shovel it out, and it was horrible. But here, it's already, I think as I'm taping this, this is, December 20th, and there's just a little sprinkling of snow. Where I used to live in Quebec, I would have been already exhausted from all of the snow shoveling. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take off my paper. Sorry if you didn't hear that. I said I'm taking off my paper. And we've got our image. Is that straight? There we go. We've got our image transferred onto our canvas now. And I'm just going to erase a few things here because it's where I push down too hard on the transfer paper. I probably don't even have to do this because I'm going to be putting graphite everywhere, but that's another thing with the graphite transfer paper. If you don't want it, you know, if you want to have white here, be careful if it's down like this and you kind of scrape it as you pick it up, you're going to get marks on your paper, like I just did right there. I'm going to start off with outlining everything that I just transferred onto my paper. And I'm using my 0.8 Fineliner, just going over everything. This morning when I took the dogs out for their walk, I live near a commercial blueberry field, and there's a little trail there. People use it for hunting. I use it to walk my dogs. And it was cold. They had to wear their little boots. And Jack, my hound dog, had to wear his big coat and what's called a snood. S-N-O-O-D. It's basically, I know there's a word for it that escapes me right now, but it's almost like a scarf, but it's you put it over your head, but it's not like a hat. It has a hole on both ends, and you put it over your head, and in his case it covers up his long ears so that he doesn't, you know, get frostbitten on his ears. I forgot a line here as I was going, but that's okay. I was really influenced to do this today because I watched the Muppet Christmas Carol the other night. Michael Caine is he plays Scrooge. I love Michael Caine. And of course Kermit plays the lead role. Miss Piggy is his wife. Tiny Tim is played by the I'm not too familiar with the names of the Muppet kids, you know. You know how they had the Looney Tunes, they all had kids, like Sylvester the Cat suddenly had his son, and I think there was a miniature Bugs Bunny too at one point, but that was probably later on in the 60s when I stopped watching and wasn't really interested in that anymore. But the quote-unquote actor who played Tiny Tim in the Muppet Christmas Carol was the miniature version of Mickey Mouse. Yeah, there we go. All right. A little spoon for the ashes. And now the fireplace. I'm right-handed, so I always work left to right. Because if I started over here and went over here, I would probably smudge everything. Even if I had my wax paper, sometimes it takes this ink pen a little while to dry. And as you can see, I'm not really caring too much about the lines I made with the graphite transfer paper, because I'm going to be filling a lot of this in. I'm going to be shading a lot of it in with graphite pencil. Okay, the outline is done. I'm going to start left to right, and I'm going to start with these little logs here. And I've got my ink pen again, and I'm just going to put some detail on the logs, just some lines. And in the round part here, just a little spiral on each one. Okay. And I'm going to take my extra black graphite pencil and just shade in the logs, but not the face of the log. Okay, for the face of the log, I'm using HB. That's the hardest pencil, but it's also the lightest. And I'm being careful to shade here in circles. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in all the shading first, then I'm going to blend, and then I'm going to detail. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is the chair here, and I see something that I missed. Hold on. You see here, this part of the chair here, I forgot to put it down here, so I'm going to follow the line. It actually should be about here, but this line, it's a minor detail, but I didn't want to forget it. Now, Tiny Tim's scarf, I'm actually going to fill in a little detail here with the scarf. I want to make it look knitted. So I'm using my ink pen to do that. I'm just going to do little squares here. And remember, it does not have to be perfect. We're just adding a little interest here, something different, so that it's not just shades of black and gray. And then I'm just going to go in with a little bit of detail here, because the focus of this drawing is the fact that, sadly, Tiny Tim is no longer here, right? Or at least in the when Ebenezer Scrooge has been visited by the ghost of what could happen, or what is it called? It's not the ghost of Christmas Future. I think it's the ghost of what could be, or something like that, officially, you know. I'm going to put some ends here on the scarf. Okay, I am actually, I have the movie on my computer, and I'm filling in the shadow of his hat here. I have the movie on my computer, and I actually paused it. This is the scene. This is actually from the Muppet Christmas Carol. So I paused that scene on the movie, and I have it on my computer right in front of me, and that's how I came up with the stencil. One day I'll do a video on making a stencil, but honestly, it takes a long time. I'm sure there are easier ways of doing it, and I'm researching that. I know there are softwares out there that if you have a photo, you can turn it into a stencil, and I'm going to try to do that to make life a little easier, because, you know, drawing should be fun. It shouldn't be something that you say, oh my gosh, okay, I gotta do the stencil now. I don't feel like doing this. It's gonna take forever. I'm just putting in some detail here on the spoon. because I have my ink pen out. Okay. And I did put a little detail here on his cane. What else can I do here? I'm looking at my reference photo and I'm looking at the chair and where the shadows are on the actual chair from the movie, the dark parts. And those are the ones I'm going to be filling in. Just what I'm doing here is putting some lines in. I'm not filling it in, like coloring it in like here, because I'm going to go over that with my graphite pencil after. But I just want to put in the dark areas here, sort of to give me a reference later when I have my graphite pencil out. Okay, this part's quite dark here. I'm going to fill this in completely here because it's right next to the scarf. Got that? Okay. This is dark too, this area here. Adding in some shading, you know, you could just color this in if you want. It'll look more like a cartoon, I guess. But if you want to give it a little bit of realism, you want to try to shade what you can. And really, honestly, if you have a reference photo, it helps a lot. Because you're able to see the dark areas compared to the lighter areas. And it gives it a little bit of depth. All right, we've got this whole area actually is quite dark right here. Okay, there's a little shadow here. The back of the chair. Just a little shadow where his cane is. And this is very dark under here. This is light here, and this is dark. What I'm doing here is, you see I'm adding lines. It's because when I look at my reference photo, I see that there's a part of the chair leg that's lighter. So that's why I'm separating it out a little bit here. Okay? I think I'm going to continue with my, my ink pencil. And I'm going to do all of the ink parts right now. So, let's see. Up here is a wood mantle, and I'm just going to put some long lines on here. Okay. Okay. Let me see what I'm doing here with the fire. The fire back here is very dark, but I'm not going to fill it in with marker because I'll use up all my ink doing that. So I'm going to just put in some detail here. This is what holds the logs. I'm just going to make it look interesting. I'm trying to make it look like a little bit of an angle here. Okay. I have snoring dogs in the background. I have to tell you, there's nothing more relaxing than just sitting at home, drawing and listening to my dogs or okay. That part's done. I'm going to come in after and add a few embers and things like that, but not yet. I want to build the fire properly first. But I am going to put a little shading here. Not shading, but just, you know, I want this to stand out a little bit. Right. The rest is all going to be done with pencil, I believe. But I am going to draw the floor out a little bit. Okay, so let's move on to using some graphite. I already started graphite here, so I'm going to, let's see, what should I use? I'm going to start with my lightest HB, because for me, everything is going to be filled in. I'm going to be filling in the wall with the HB pencil. And as you can see the way I'm holding it, I'm not pressing hard at all. It's very light. And I'm going in circles like this. Because I've said this before, when you're drawing, no matter what you're using, if you're using graphite pencil or charcoal pencil, if you draw a straight line, more often than not, when you blend, you will see the straight line. So I'm trying to very gently, and I turn my pencil often so that I don't have to keep sharpening it. So yeah, most often if you draw a straight line with a pencil, you will see a straight line when you blend. And if that's what you want to see, by all means, draw a straight line. But if you want it to be kind of in the background, draw in circles. I don't know if you noticed what I'm doing. I have my thumb here at the edge of the paper, and I'm using it to guide me so that I don't go off the paper. If you don't want, for example, you don't want the cane to have any medium on it, don't worry, it's pencil and you can erase. In fact, the last step of this drawing is going to be all about erasing to create highlights. That's the wonderful thing about graphite. You can use erasers to do your highlighting. I love that. So I'm not too worried about, you know, getting my graphite into the areas where I don't want it right now. Unfortunately, I am right-handed, so I can't use my finger here to stop me from going off the side of the page. See, already, I don't know if you can see from the bright lights, but already this is starting to have a little bit of depth to it just by putting in the graphite in the background. Okay, so I'm going to work on the chair. The next pencil that I'm using is the 2B. HB is the lightest. 2B is the next lightest, then 4, then 6. The higher the number, the darker the pencil, and the softer the pencil, which is what makes it dark. So I've got a few areas here that I want to be lighter, but not as light as the walls. So Tiny Tim's hat is going to be filled in with the 2B. I'm going to leave the scarf as is right now. And there are some areas of the chair that are a little lighter. For example, here. And by what I mean by a little lighter is not as light as the wall, but not as dark as, for example, the log here. So like I said, I'm just referring to my reference, and I'm shading. There's a little spot here. I need my wax paper now. You can use a paper towel or cloth or whatever you have. Just, you don't want to get graphite all over yourself. Alright, so that area is done for the chair. I'm going to grab my 4B, which is the next darkest one, and I'm going to fill in. Oh wait, there's an area here. Where is my 2B? Okay, 2B, this little spot here on the chair. Small details. This is my 4B. I'm going to fill in the rest of the chair. The areas that have not been filled in, that is, because I'm not done with the chair yet. And I forgot this area here, 2B. And lastly, I've got my extra black, which would be the equivalent of a 6B, I believe. I really like this extra black. Everywhere that I put in the marker, I'm going to fill in with the extra black as well. Oh, you see here? I forgot something. This is part of the chair leg down here. Fill that in dark. Okay. I think the chair is done for now. Tiny Tim's cane here. There's a little bit of shadowing. I've got my 2B a little dark on one side here. And just a little going down, but most of it is going to be light, and I'm going to go back and highlight that with the erasers after. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the spoon. I'm going to keep my 2B here and fill in the entire spoon, actually. Did I say spoon before? I don't know what I said. And I'm going to grab my 4B, and just on the side of the spoon, and this area here is a little darker. Okay. Now the mantle, I'm going to grab my 2B, and I'm just going to fill that in there. The focus for me is not the mantle, but I want to give it some depth. All right. Now the back of the fireplace, it's pretty dark because there's a lot of soot, and you can't really see much besides darkness for about, let's say, here up and about here up. This will all be very black, and maybe this whole area here. So I'm going to fill that in with my dark extra black graphite pencil. Are you a fan of that Christmas Carol tale? I was never a fan of it as a kid. Even the Muppet one. I think because the last ghost scared me. The what I call the Christmas future ghost, the ghost of, you know, who shows Ebenezer Scrooge his grave. That always scared me as a kid, and I never wanted to watch that movie when it came on television. But now, things are different. For me, death is all about transformation. I probably feel that way because I read tarot cards, and the death card is about transformation. It's not necessarily about dying. It's about something dying in your life and being reborn. So I see the Grim Reaper and I think, oh, yeah, something is about to change in my life. And I guess that was the idea of the Christmas Carol too, when the Grim Reaper, or the ghost of what could happen or what could come to pass, ghost of Christmas future, whatever you want to call it, he was trying to show Ebenezer Scrooge, you know, what could happen if he didn't change his ways. And I just love that message. As an adult, I love that message. If you're stuck in the same patterns of life, you know, you might die with regret. You might have regret later on in life when it's too late to fix things that you could have fixed a long time ago. Time is so short on this earth, you know. I'm not going to get all psychological now. Okay, so under here it's quite dark as well. Alright, now I'm going to grab my, let's see, the 4B. No, 2B. And I'm going to fill in this area here. And I'm just going to put in a little 4B here. Okay, I forgot something. Taking my ink pen. We have a little step here, right? So let's make it look like a step. Because underneath I've got my 2B. It's not as dark as this here or this here, but it's slightly darker, so I'm going to fill that in with my 2B. And my HB, the lightest one, goes here. The HB is also going to be very lightly applied. I'm talking like in the third person, right? I'm applying the HB very, very light here for the fire. Okay, and here too, HB. Okay, the extra dark, extra black here. Let's go in and fill in the floor. I'm not filling it in too much, but just to give it a little bit of more shading. Oh, I guess I got a little marker here. That's okay. Don't forget to turn your pencil. I guess I am filling it in quite a bit. I want it to look different. You know, when you have dark next to light, it stands out more, you know. Is that pencil? Okay, yeah, it is pencil. Sorry, I'm being a little OCD there. Okay, I'm going to start blending now. I've got my Sofft foam tip blender. It is kind of dirty because I used it for other drawings lately. I'm just wiping it off. And I have been using, I just want to let you know, I have been using the same tip for I don't know how long, months I think. And it's just starting to tear here. The idea of the foam tip blender is not to press down very hard. You want to be blending very softly. It does wear out after time, but you know, you want to make sure that you're blending as softly as possible. Because you don't want to, you know, these things are expensive. Plus you don't want to destroy your paper. So the way I blend usually is I start with the lightest areas and then I work my way to the darker areas. So everything that's HB, and I can see the difference. I don't know if you can. And maybe you can tell me something I missed. Let's grab the 2B. Forgot this area here. Okay, so let's start blending the HB. Like I said, very lightly, and I'm blending in circles. Left to right, top to bottom if you're right-handed. Just helps you not to smudge. I think it's really important to always fill in your background. That's just for me, you know, I like to fill in my background, even if it's with a very light pencil, an HB pencil, because it adds depth to your drawing. You know, later today I'm going to be doing, oh, you see, I forgot something, HB, right here. Later today I'm going to be doing another scene from A Christmas Carol. It's actually the scene where the Grim Reaper comes and shows Michael Caine his grave if he doesn't do something about his life and his attitude. And I'm going to do it with Looney Tunes. Bugs Bunny is gonna play the role of Michael Caine. And for that, I'm not gonna fill in all the background because that's supposed to be a cartoon. But for something like this, I want it to look different. I don't want it to look like a cartoon. I want it to look like a nice drawing. So that's why I think it's important to put in the background colors, shading. Okay. Now I'm gonna try to do the 2B areas, if I can remember. At this point, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm just gonna actually just go and shade everything from here on in. And what I'm doing when I shade everything like this is I didn't apply any graphite in the scarf, but there will be a little bit that moves over there, but that's okay. It gives it a little bit of shading, and if I don't like it, I can always go and erase it. I am trying to avoid the dark 6B area here for now, though, because I don't really want the 6B dark to get into the areas where I don't want it dark. These soft foam tip blenders are amazing. They're really hard to find, though. I mean, I think they're hard to find. I had a hard time finding them. I ended up buying a set of 4, actually, but this was many years ago. They have different tips on them. To me, for my purposes, it makes no difference what tip I use. I just use these because most of the tips were round that came with them. But I had to buy some this year. After using them for like 3 or 4 years, they started to rip a little bit and tear. And I couldn't find them. I finally found them on Amazon. And I got a bag of 20 or something like that. So that should last me a good decade. All right. Let's go in and do the floor. Okay, I'm just going over everything now. Make sure I didn't forget anything. All right, everything's nicely blended for now. Now I'm going to go in and start adding some detail. For example, I don't like this harsh line here, so I'm going to try to make sure that it blends better. I'm going to add some detail to the bricks. I'm going to add some detail to the fire, maybe the mantle. Yep, I'm going to add some detail now. So I've got my ink pen again, and I'm going to start doing a little bit of detail. There is a little bit of brick back here. I mean, obviously there's brick everywhere, but you can't see it because of the soot, but there is a little bit that could be showing. So I'm just going to lightly put in a few lines. Very lightly, maybe add a few bricks here. And they are definitely showing a little more down here, so, but not as bold as there. Okay, and something's missing here. I don't know. I don't like the way that looks. I gotta add something here, just a little piece of the wall or something. that looks just a little better. Maybe here too. Obviously not a very straight line. Alright, here I'm going to do this. Okay, that looks a little better, I think. I'm not looking for perfection. Okay. Yeah, that looks a little better. And then I have to remember that, you know, nothing is 2D, right? So let's put a little side to the mantle here. There. Maybe. Okay, that looks a little better, maybe a little more realistic. Okay, I'm happy with that. And just a little shading here. This too, that's not 2D, you gotta put a little edge to it, right? I think that looks a little better. Now for the fire itself, I'm not going to use ink for this because I don't want to really make any mistakes, so I'm going to use my HB pencil. I'm sorry, I keep moving that paper. And fire has some areas in it. I mean, it's not just one big blob, right? It's got some flames. And it does have shading as well. Maybe over here too. You know what? I'm just going to go for broke. I'm going to take my ink and just fill it all in. Gotta take a chance. I'm improvising right now. That's a little better, I think. There might be some little embers of logs down here. Okay. Maybe some dark areas. Not quite sure what I'm doing here, but I think it's all right. Okay. Now I'm going to take my extra dark and put in some shading on the fire, which I can always erase if I don't like. But you know, again, fire is not 2D, two-dimensional. It's got depth and layer to it. And I'm going to grab my HB and shade in just a little bit more of the fire here. And I'm going to go back and do highlights after, so no worries. Hakuna Matata. It means no worries. I am not a singer. I was watching The Lion King the other day. Oh, God, that movie makes me cry. Gee whiz, I know it's just a cartoon, and James Earl Jones didn't really die in that movie. But it makes me weep every time. I think Jeremy Irons makes the perfect Scar, the perfect jealous wannabe king brother. You know, James Earl Jones plays, what was his name? My gosh, I'm so sorry, I don't remember. The father, let's just say that. He plays the king, and he's, of course, the noble, gentle one. And Jeremy Irons, I might each be here. Jeremy Irons plays the angry, rough cut, you know, in cahoots with the hyenas lion. But I mean, the Disney movies from the 90s especially, I really relate to. You know, all the people that did the voices. Alright, so that's okay for now. Let me see. I'm going to take my extra black and make this very dark down here. Alright, and maybe just fill that in and blend. I think the only blender that I'm going to use today is this one here. Alright, now this area here I'm not too pleased with. I have the extra dark here, and I believe that was the 2B. I'm going to take my 2B again and kind of try to blend that out a little bit so it's not so harsh. Same thing here. I'm pressing lighter and lighter as I go down so that it just blends a little better. I don't like that harsh line, you know. And I believe I can still see it here, so I'm going to take my 4B, which is a little darker, and fill in here so I don't see that harsh line. And again, as I go down, lighter and lighter on the pressure, that is. Okay, I'm good with that. I've got my extra dark, just putting in a little shadow here. Let's blend that right away. Okay. Now this area here is a little flat. So I'm going to take my dark, extra dark pencil again, and I'm just going to go next to each line that I drew with the marker, and either underneath the line, the horizontal line, or to the right of the vertical line, I'm going to put in some shading. And a little bit down here as well. Some shading here and here. Okay, now I'm going to go and blend all that. Actually, you know what? I don't like those bricks like that. They're bothering me, so I'm going to just put in some cross-hatching with my ink pen very, very lightly. Just the ones on the wall. I don't know why they're bugging me. Okay, let's blend those areas where we put the dark in. Actually, I don't mind going over the whole thing like this. Put some shading here too, eh? Okay. Now I feel like I want to do a little bit of cross-hatching here too. extra black again, going over the sides of the hearth. Well, my friends, I just realized something. Every time I pause my video, I always plug in, I use my Android phone to film my videos, and every time I pause the video, I plug it in just to make sure that I have enough power to do these long videos, you know. And I realized that for the last segment, I did not unplug it, and I hope that the audio isn't too bad. If you don't unplug it, the audio usually, let's be frank, it sucks. So I'm really sorry about that. Okay, so I've got this done. I'm looking at the chair. Let's see. Looking at my movie reference here. I'm going to take my extra black. No, I'm going to take my 4B because I put extra black here. So I've got my 4B. And under the chair it's quite dark because, you know, it's being hidden from the light. So that's in the dark right there. And where else? Probably a little bit back here. And there's a little bit of shading here on the wall from the chair and beside the logs as well. All right, this area here is dark as well. Okay, I'm going to blend that out. Some people say blending it in, some people say blending it out. I pick and choose. I was talking about the Disney films, you know, saying no worries, Hakuna Matata. I think my favorite, I don't have a favorite one. There are a few of my favorites. I love The Lion King. I also loved Beauty and the Beast because of the Be Our Guest scene where Jerry Orbach plays Lumiere. You probably know Jerry Orbach more from the Law and Orders. He played the rough cop. I love Jerry Orbach. He was in one of my favorite Woody Allen movies, Crimes and Misdemeanors. Okay, I think I'm going to make the floor a little darker here with the extra black. Okay. And I loved Beauty and the Beast as well because of Gaston, the arrogant guy who thought he could marry Beauty, Belle. Sweet story. Another story of transformation. I was talking about death before, the death card in tarot, the transformation card. And of course Aladdin. The only reason that I love Aladdin is because of Robin Williams. I mean, he just made that movie come alive. All right. I think this is looking pretty good. Now what I want to do is add some highlighting. And you'll have to bear with me for this because I am looking at my reference photos. My reference photo. Now I want to make sure that the inside of the logs are white. They're lighter. And I'm just using, this is a Tombow Mono Zero mechanical eraser. It's tiny and I love it. Oops, I keep doing that. there's going to be a lot of highlights in the fire, and I'm just going to go up and put in flames. I didn't use proper grammar there, did I? I said there will be many. There's gonna be lots of highlights in that fire, let me tell you what. No, Rain, there will be plenty of highlights in this flamed area. And you know, we've got some flame coming up. Maybe a few sparks. Well, that looks pretty good. I really like that. All right, I'm looking at my reference again. Some areas here that are highlighted. Just get rid of those eraser bits. The entire cane area on the bottom is highlighted, and so is this little spot here. Okay. There's a little area on his hat. Looking at the chair again. That spot there. Okay. That's all right. Let's look at the spoon. Okay, we've done the fire. This area down here, there might be just a little bit of highlighting. This is just for texture down here. This area here, it's got a little highlighting. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is just a little bit on the mantle. I'm just going to put in some circles. Just to have, because mantles usually had designs, you know. Okay, where else do I need to highlight? The fire is kind of making highlights this way. For this, I'm actually going to take my larger mechanical eraser. Okay. Well, my friends, I think that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Just going to grab my little dark extra black here. Put a little bit of darker shading under these logs here. All right, there we go. I really like that. I hope you guys liked doing this. I mean, this was fun for me. I'm just going to sign it. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of drawing with ink and graphite. If you liked doing this little scene, if there's anything that you want me to do in the future. I love to read comments and I love to reply to them. So thank you so much for being here and watching this. I hope you joined in. I'll see you next time. Bye.